know what you would die for. What people want these days is more depth, more soul, more personality, more authenticity. So the more you can bring that to the platform, the better.
What is it with Instagram that you particularly like?
One, it's very easy to grow there. Number two, it's kind of like become the modern day business card. I use CapCut, Pinterest for B-roll. The world needs stronger leaders. The world needs integral leaders that actually show up and give a fuck. And that, the more people do that, that's how we build New Earth.
Hi, and welcome to this new episode of the Lightleaders. Today I'm with Thor, who's a new Earth leader and Viking from Norway. He's got almost a decade of experience in building personal brands on social media and speaks his truth no matter how controversial or bold. He's close to 300,000 followers on Instagram alone. He worked with big names in the space like Grant Cardone and Russell Brunson and grew him over 1 million followers. He also built a 1 million a year business a few years ago. He defines himself as a kid of God on a mission to change the world. Today, we'll talk about why leaders of the new Earth need to share more on social media and build their profitable personal brand, as well as share actionable tips on how you can do it effectively. So I'm super grateful to have you today. I've also personally been following you on Instagram a lot and been really inspired by your message. So welcome to the show. Anyone, you can also choose the chapters that you like at the bottom of the video. And Thor, my first question to you is, what are you grateful for today?
Beautiful question. And thank you for the intro, bro. That was awesome. I'm pumped to be here. What am I grateful for? Right now, I'm really grateful for coffee because it's early morning in Norway and we have amazing coffee. Every place I travel to as well, I always try the coffee. But for some reason, there's one brand in Norway called Evergood that just has amazing coffee. I have a Canadian friend actually who ships in coffee from Norway. So yeah, I'm grateful for that and my French press.
Thank you, Thor. Thank you. I'd love to ask you if you can give a short background story on how you got into personal branding and why you're excited about that.
Yeah. I guess I've always been like the kid of the spotlight in a sense. I've got two younger brothers, so I've naturally been a leader for them as we grew up and we're in the mountains and in the city. Like I grew up having two lives, one in the mountain on the weekends with in our cabin with our parents, my brothers, and then weekdays in the city. And I guess I've just always wanted to be seen for the things that I'm doing. I've tried all different sports and always excelled at pretty much anything that I've done that I was passionate about. And so I've always wanted to be seen. And so I think 2014 was the first time that I got into like YouTube and actually posting content. And we made a trampoline channel where we were posting trampoline edits because that was what we were doing, and snowboard edits. And so that's kind of where it started. We built this brand called, it's still on YouTube to this day. The channel is actually now this summer been up for 10 years, a decade, which is kind of cool. We started in 2014. It's called Tramp Twisters. It's like 100 subscribers, nothing big. And then, yeah, from there, I think it took 4 more years, or 2017 is when I got into branding for business purposes. I heard about online business from a friend of mine. We were in school still, high school. And I was like, oh, like this is interesting. And I started building my brand on Facebook and just posting random quotes and photos and whatnot. From there, I started building it on YouTube actually. And I built a YouTube channel really fast, teaching people about Instagram growth things and whatnot, which nobody was doing back then. It was all through paywalls and courses in 2017. So my channel blew up and it grew to like 60, 70K subs in a little over a year, maybe 2 years. And so that was like, at that point, I was, wow, like I'm making big money now. I ended up dropping out of high school because I was making enough to travel and do my thing and whatnot. And then from there, I landed on Instagram as like my platform where Yeah, I guess that's kind of just where I landed, because it was also what I was talking about. It's also what we've been helping clients with. It's still what we focus primarily on when we work with brands and other coaches doing their content, doing their marketing, doing their posting, distribution, all of that. It's typically focused on Instagram, and whatnot. And so, yeah, that's what got into me. It got me into it. And looking back too, I've just always had a fucking voice. I've just always had shit to say about everything and anything. I've had a big, strong, flagrant personality. And so it just made sense. It makes sense that I ended up building a brand and still am doing it today and really love it and enjoy it, though it's intense as fuck these days. But yeah, it's kind of how I got here.
Mm. Amazing. Thanks, Thor. And I love that you also have a spiritual, very purpose driven twist to your brand online. And we'll talk a little bit about this. But to stay more on a general personal brand topic, what are your best tips on building a personal brand in 2024?
Know what you would die for, which is just another way of saying what are your values. But it's like, what really are your values? What would you actually die for? What would you sacrifice your life for in pursuit of? And most people don't have the answer to that question. If you do have the answer to that question, the potency of your message and your ability to be bold as well will increase and be more potent, because there's just a lot more depth and soul to it. And that's what people want these days, is more depth, more soul, more personality, more authenticity. Authenticity is a higher vibration than love. It's the ultimate vibration. Like when you're enlightened, you're just 100% authentic all the time. That's what enlightenment is. And so that's also what the world wants and needs and is craving. So the more you can bring that to the platform, the better. And that's also you bringing your darker sides, because we're both that masculine, feminine, white, black, dark, light aspect. We're all of it. And so bringing that to the platform is beneficial, because it shows that you're actually human like everybody else. So that would be, and that's like not a strategy or tactic. It's like, people
Mm.
are listening, they're like, I know this, but like actually I've been in this game for almost a decade now, building brands. We've grown multiple tens of millions of followers for our own brands and clients' brands. We've done tens of millions of dollars on social media as a product of growing. I know this shit really well, and I've done all the hacks. I've done all the black hat strategies, all the white hat strategies, power likes, like groups. We were the guys doing that, teaching that, preaching that back in the day. The reason I say what I say is because today it's never been easier. Like it's the easiest it's ever been to grow on social media, to grow on Instagram specifically. But it's only easy if you have what I just said as your foundation. I can't stress that enough. Yes, there's an element to like some strategy around hooks. Like the most important part of the video is the hook. But even the hook, which is like, this thing will change your life, that's like a basic hook. The hooks that work today are hooks that speak to the collective consciousness, the collective awareness, what is in people's fields, what people think about, or is up there, but they haven't maybe articulated it yet. And then you talk about it. It's like, oh, wow, I was thinking this all along. Like, thank God somebody finally said it. Things that are just in people's fields. And what's in people's fields right now? Well, a lot of chaos is in people's fields, a lot of confusion. Everybody's tapped into the whole thing with Trump, for example. Like that's massive in everybody's fields right now. And so regardless of what niche you're in, it makes a lot of sense for you to speak to what's happening in the world at large, because it is so present that if you don't talk about it, it almost feels weird. Because it's like, how are you going to sit there and talk about, I don't know, I'm not going to throw any rocks, or I throw rocks all the time. So I am going to throw any rocks, but it's not isolating. For example, like, I don't know, a basic ass diet, like you're talking about dieting and whatnot. Like I look at some guy that's talking about dieting on the social media. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. And we still need to have these conversations. But also if you're not acknowledging what's happening at large, to me, it feels a little bit inauthentic, because I know you're thinking about it and I know it's in your energy field. why aren't you talking about it on social media? You're almost being a little bit inauthentic by not speaking into what's actually happening and in your awareness. And that's also what I've seen is what pops and what makes your audience go, I fuck with this guy. Because this guy is just expressing his authentic self throughout the day. I'm not planning my content anymore. I'm planning my
Mm.
content to a certain degree, but for the most part, most of the time, it's just what comes up and what's in the moment. Um, and again, full circle back. That's what people want: your authentic, raw expression. And if you can add a little bit of boldness to that too, even better.
Amazing. I love that. And that's how you do it in the newest way, right? Like, is it different for leaders of the newest to grow a brand on Instagram that it would be for all paradigm celebrities, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. Very different. And you know this too, because as a leader of New Earth, as somebody who's more conscious, you can't sacrifice your integrity, for example, to get more views or to make more money. So there's certain things that you don't resonate with anymore, like old school marketing strategies, like, sneaky sales strategies or timers, fake discounts, like making a video about something simply because you just want to capitalize on the views of that topic because it's hot right now, not because you actually genuinely have something new to share and speak into. Those kinds of things are different. And it's, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know from you as well, what have been your experience and reflections around this? Because for me, it has been something that I've been struggling with and like, yo, fuck, like, how do I navigate this? How do I move through this?
Mm. Yeah, thanks for asking. It's been a challenge for me sometimes to, with this podcast, for example, keep following my interest, my genuine, authentic curiosity. And sometimes when I do that, I feel I'm losing business momentum because I'm not sticking to a niche, for example, and I'm not riding the wave of what's working. So, for example, I was doing pretty well when I was doing interviews with several people around raw foods, and that was getting a lot of views. But at some point, I was like, okay, I'm still eating this way, but I'm not that excited about talking about it for 3 hours. So now I'm doing new type of content that got less views that I'm really excited about. But I trust that as you said, that authenticity and curiosity ultimately is the most important for my content. And I'm definitely interested in a lot of views. At the same time, maybe some videos that get a few hundred views from the right people that need that message at that time is better than having thousands of views from people that um, maybe I didn't need to connect with at that time, or from a business perspective that won't buy the stuff I'm doing then.
100%. That too is challenging oftentimes, especially when you've got a business that's paired to your presence on social media. It's oftentimes frustrating, like, the business or the average coach would tell me to do this action, but I just don't want to fucking do that. Like, I don't want to talk about raw fruits and foods anymore. Like, I've talked about it for like a year now. Like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And that is probably one of the bigger pickles that conscious leaders find themselves in is, I don't want to niche down. You're expanded in your consciousness now. Your awareness is expanded, so your interest and expression of life is expanded too. And you can't be put in a box. You couldn't previously be put in a box, but now it's even more difficult. And you've got a million different interests. You've got so many new interests. You've got so many new things that you're passionate about and want to talk about. Like, having a niche makes no fucking sense. Absolute no fucking sense. And if you try to put yourself in a niche, you feel like you're just moving backwards, like you're suppressing your authentic self. But everybody's telling you to get a niche and you got to be focused with your message. And to make most money, you got to like really fucking only talk about this product and things around that product and da 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 da. And it's like, but fuck that. Like, I'm not trying to do that. And if you look at my brand, I talk about pretty much fucking everything and anything. But, and also there was a period like a year ago, or yeah, pretty much a year ago, I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing anymore on social media. Like, this doesn't make any sense from a business perspective, but this is what feels true. So I'm just going to follow that. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I did, because looking back, I'm able to connect the dots. Yeah, there is no niche, but there also is a niche. The niche is me, for one, but also it's my perspective and values of the world. The foundation of what I do is what I would die for. Coming back to the first question, the foundation is there. It's my perspective on things and my pursuit of truth in all kinds of different niches and industries. And it's all communicated through my credo, my worldview, my paradigm, my perspective of the world. And so that people get, if I talk about raw foods, or if I talk about the president assassination, whatever, like, the core foundation will still be the same thing, even though I'm talking about two completely different things. It's that red thread. And that my audience has noticed and notice. And so now, given it some time, it makes sense for them. So like, oh, there is a niche. But I'll talk about gym, I'll talk about foods, I'll talk about corruption in society, I'll talk about personal branding and building new earth. Like, but everything connects though. And we know this, and we throw that around as like spiritual slang. Yeah, everything's connected. Yeah, everything is connected. And now I'm experiencing the truth of that statement through business and through building a brand. And you can too. And it's literally just do what you do, Alex. Lean into that intuitive guidance that's telling you, you know what? It's time to stop talking about raw foods. We're switching it up now.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Thor. And I'm actually also interested in, as we talk about building that personal brand, you favor Instagram. You said you had a YouTube channel, not anymore. What is it with Instagram that you particularly like for building a personal brand?
One, it's very easy to grow there. So that's one. Number two, it's kind of like become the modern day business card. It's like the first, like, nobody will ask you on the street about your YouTube. Can I get your YouTube? But everybody asks about the Instagram. So it's like, it's where most people are. So it's just the OG social media platform, you could say. Or I mean, that would be Facebook, but nobody's using really Facebook anymore. It's Instagram. So it's pretty much because of that. And also because everything else kind of is a product or everything else can be posted to the other social media platforms. If you make a reel, you can post it as a YouTube short, a TikTok, a Facebook reel as well. And that's what we do in the agency. I have a content and marketing agency, and what we'll do is we'll focus with the client, for example, on creating the reels. So we'll do the scripting, the ideation, the video ideas. Typically, I'll sometimes hop on a call, or someone in the team will hop on a call with the client and just ask a bunch of questions, kind of like a podcast style like this, but just very intentional question asking, and like, yo, can you reframe this, say this different? Because a lot of coaches too really struggle with, like, they have so much fucking unique essence, unique gold, but they're like, I don't know how to fuck to get this out to the world. Like, they're stuck communicating it. They put the camera up and now brain freeze. Like, fuck. That's a big problem. And so, but getting that content, getting that raw footage dialed, and then it's like, all right, we do the editing, and we'll do the editing for the reel. But then the only thing that needs to change is essentially the hook. So we'll always have two versions of the edits, and then the hook, the first 6 seconds of the video, that's the only thing that will be different from Instagram to TikTok to YouTube Shorts. So we'll just make those slight changes based on what's trending on YouTube Shorts now in terms of the hook and TikTok, and then we'll do that distribution. And so it's kind of all just coming from Instagram by just focusing on that as the main platform, and then making slight changes when we get to the distribution part. That's been working. And so I think that's why. And yeah, why this is the main focus. But long form conversations too are really taking over, and becoming a bigger thing, because people feel, it just feels more authentic as well. It feels more honest. And it's like, people are kind of like, people don't enjoy the fact that their brains are fried and need like 10 million edits all the time. That's another thing that's changed on Instagram too, which always happens as the market grows and expands. This is a great concept, by the way. Everybody should know about this. This is from a book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. He talks about the 5 stages of market awareness and the 5 stages of market sophistication. The 5 stages of market sophistication is what I'm going to speak into now. But in any market, the customers will grow more sophisticated. And when a customer becomes more sophisticated, more aware of the tactics and the strategies that are being used to sell or to get their attention, they're not going to respond to it the same way. And so you need to level up your marketing or your approach to all of this. The peak, the 4th stage, it's 5 stages. The 4th stage of market, the Instagram market, was basically reached in last year with the Alex Hermosi style editing of, B-roll every 2 seconds, and the fucking subtitles is like fucking moving like crazy, and there's emojis and this popping and that popping, which is called glitter and glam. It's just like over the top, doing anything you fucking can to capture the attention of the customers, just going bizarre. That was the 4th stage. The 5th stage is back to, well, they call it storytelling, but it's just back to the basics. Storytelling is the oldest way of communication and teaching and preaching from ancient times. Is what we did around the bonfire, the campfire. And so on Instagram now, what that looked like is no B-roll, just a raw conversation with simple subtitles that's in one color, because it doesn't feel like you're trying to overcompensate anymore for a lack of value in the video by going crazy with the B-roll, because a true banger does not need B-roll. It does not need crazy subtitles. If you need crazy subtitles and B-roll to make your videos get views, the core is not potent enough. And so I went on a tangent there. I kind of forgot well, I guess my point with that was all to say that YouTube and long form is really becoming a thing. And this is what we're seeing on Instagram, how it's a little bit less aggressive now, is also a reflection of that.
Amazing. Thank you. And I love what you shared about Instagram being the business card, which is true. And that's what I feel. Even though I prioritize YouTube, my Instagram is also really important for me. And I feel it kind of has to if you build a personal brand. I also loved when you shared that you're your niche, because whatever niche you choose or don't choose, you have a unique frequency that is you, that is a niche in itself. So I think that's something to always keep in mind. And what you were
Absolutely.
sharing also, because you were talking about Hormozy. Actually, I watched a video by Hormozy, I think he published like a month ago or something, where he's moving more towards niching more to business, or rather than talking about food and college and all this, and also prioritizing long content. That's something that he feels is more aligned for him now.
Yeah. Yeah. And him too is like, I mean, he doesn't really do the short form stuff himself. It's not like he sits down and tries to script it out. He's always been doing long form, and it's just turned into short form videos, which is probably the best way. And also like the best way for somebody like you too. Like in that ideal situation, because you strike me as a long form guy. I mean, you're mainly focused on your YouTube and your podcast. You just do that, and then somebody turns that content into short form stuff. But it has to be, because you can kind of hire some, I mean, you can even use AI to like trim the videos down, but the AI does not have the sophistication paired with the market's awareness to effectively do that, to make it viral. It's just going to grab random sort of extracts. But also the more like that's, I guess that's the caveat there. But it's there's always these changes and ebbs and flows on the platform, and it's always connected to where we're moving as a society. That's the cool thing. It's connected to the Great Awakening. What's happening on social media is a product of the Great Awakening. It depends on, I mean, for us at least it is, because we're in
Mm.
that space and field of social media and of Instagram. But as a whole, too, that's what's moving the world right now, is the changes we're seeing in society. And that's what's expressed on social. So if you're really in tune with yourself, your intuition, maybe you fucking geek out on astrology and fucking all of that stuff, like, you know where the world is headed. You know what's coming up. So with that awareness, you should, in theory, be fucking smashing it on social media.
Mm.
But actually, spiritual people, more aware people, are the ones that struggle the most, which is always an interesting equation. Like, why is
Mm.
that the case?
Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? I'm curious. Actually, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your take on why you think that's the case.
Mm. First thing that comes to mind is from a higher consciousness perspective, there's a bit of a paradox where we're here to create the new earth, and at the same time, we understand that it's all perfect. And so I feel like sometimes that acceptance can move into lack of motivation or even a sense of apathy where it's like, well, the world is perfect as it is. I'm just in the present moment. There's nothing to change. So why would I go on social media and preach or talk about things?
Mm. That's a fucking great take. Absolutely. There's a lot of people that are that way. And yeah, that's also a way of bypassing your, you could say, your responsibility. Or for some people, it's not necessarily your responsibility. For me, it is what I know I'm here to do, is do
Mm.
this. Because like, I have the energy, I have the life force, I have the boldness, I have the voice, I have everything in my life to this point. It makes sense that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, but yeah, and also everything's perfect. Like, we don't need to build new Earth. It's already built. It's already there. We just now get to live as if it is the reality, because it is the reality, and by living in that reality, it's gonna manifest. So it's like, yeah, there's that to it. Um, and I also think a lot of people that are conscious and spiritual, they're more self-conscious. So there's more
Mm.
judgment of self. There's more awareness. Like, when you are hyper aware, it also makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes to post and share, because you're too aware of how your message could be perceived in a wrong way or whatnot. Like, this is probably one of my biggest struggles, is I'm fucking hyper aware. Um, and paired that with also like a lot of, like, I'm very street smart, but because I'm street smart, I'm also fucking street hyper aware. So I'm hyper aware of how, like, the street would just judge something or perceive something in a different way. So like, that makes me take so many different things factored into creating content, which makes it easy to overthink. It's like so much overthinking happening in this space.
Mm.
And also there's a lot of laziness, bro. There's a lot of like, just like, I can't be bothered. Like, a lot of very conscious people have almost less life force now to go out and create shit. Um, that I don't know why is the case, because in theory you should have more life force because you're more conscious and tapped in. But some people just seem less, like, I don't know, like engaged, like they're just more bland. Um, yeah.
Yeah, potentially. And I'd love to share, yeah, a few reflections on this. I love how you talked about responsibility. I love to look at the word because often people is something you have to do, but really responsibility is, do you have the ability to respond? And so in your case, you have the ability to channel your divine gifts into action. So I feel like thinking of it this way makes it more empowering rather than something that I have to do.
Dude, I got full body chills. That is so good. Response ability. You have the ability to respond, not
Mm.
react, respond, do something that changes things. And wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really good.
Doing it from that ability because you can. A couple of things also you talked about when you talk about the AI for sure. Like for example, this software I'm using for the podcast, they create clips. They do a lot of editing. So with AI now, it's so much easier to not only create a great high quality podcast, but also to create clips. It will make the subtitles. It will change the design. Of course, they would like AI is at that point where it's still a little bit gross. So, for example, for me, I will record this and then I will have AI generated clips that I'll post on my Instagram with beautiful branding that you'll see. And at the same time, yeah, there will still be benefit is in having someone like you, like really fine tuning the hooks or the b-rolls or that. But for someone who's doesn't have to be a perfectionist, you can do long form and have 3 or 4 really good clips by AI with subtitles that look good using either Riverside, which is the uh, software I'm using now, or if it's recorded with something else, something like Opus Clips, does that pretty well. So yeah, that's something I
Yeah.
wanted to share. And on a personal level, as you talked about, yeah, I'm prioritizing more the long format, but I've played a bit with Instagram Reels, and on one side, I don't like it so much because I feel, yeah, it's a lot of editing, like being on CapCut and doing those things. I guess you don't do that. So I thought I'm probably going to do that when I have, I invest in a team to do the editing. But it's like an art. Sometimes I was creating those videos, I'm like, wow, I can in 60 seconds I can share these ideas with these images and share in like 60 seconds. How am I going to share so much in just that time frame? So I hear you
That's
on
it.
this. Yeah.
That's the thing that I found a lot of joy in. I don't do my well, I don't have to do my editing, but sometimes, oftentimes actually, I like, yo, fucking this video, yes, I want to make it. And it's like if I just want to make something today and post it today, then I got to do it myself because my team can't do turnaround in
Mm,
just one day because we've got plans and other clients. But so and I love it. It's like, fuck, it's an art. It's like, how much can I communicate in 60 seconds? And this is the thing that I've found is a lot of people spend so long trying to communicate a message, like what you might spend 5 minutes doing or even 20 minutes doing in a video. I bet, and I'm not talking to you specifically, but just in general, I bet I could fucking turn that into a 90-second reel. And that's like,
mm,
holy shit, wow. Because simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. If you can't communicate something and teach it simply, you don't really know it as well as you could know it. And so Instagram for me has actually forced me to level up in the potency of my
mm,
communication because you only have 90 seconds. And especially for someone like us, like there's so much to share. Like you're trying to teach people about the universe, how the fucking world works, quantum physics, the flow of energy. Like those are deep topics. How the fuck do you teach those things in 60, 90 seconds? Well, there's many ways to do it. Especially using what is it called? It's not metaphors or there's like yeah metaphors or whatever it is, but just using images of reality to communicate something is really effective. um and yeah, it's an art, it's an art, and it's a beautiful art. You can have a lot of fun with it.
mm. Yeah, thank you. It is an art and you're very skillful at it. I'm curious, when you edit yourself, what tools do you use?
I use CapCut. I use Pinterest for B-roll. The B-roll is really cool from Pinterest because Pinterest has these like AI generated things, and it's a lot of raw. Like you don't want to use random stock footage. You want the content to have personality. Everything needs to have a personality, and what you find on Pinterest, the B-roll on Pinterest has a lot of personality. So that's why I prefer Pinterest. CapCut is
Mm,
where I actually do the editing itself, and that's it. I mean, nothing else than that. I don't like to edit on my phone. It's a lot more effective on my computer. Um, yeah.
mm. Awesome. I'm yeah, on this, by the way, I'm curious in terms of quantity versus quality because often we can be influenced by the Gary V's and like be everywhere and do all the things. But in my experience, there's also sometimes maybe it's better that you post one or two really good reels a week rather than a reel or two every day. They're like kind of average. So how do you balance the quantity versus quality part?
You should only up the quality if you can sustain. Sorry, you should only up the quantity if you can sustain the quality. So that's Gary Vee. He's got a whole fucking team. He's got a whole business. Yeah. When we work with clients, we can help them scale their content because now they're not alone and just fucking solo playing it. Because you can solo play to maybe like 2-3 posts a day. But then that's pretty much fucking all you're doing is just making content at that point. Because it takes, especially if you want bangers, like it takes time and intentional editing and planning and scripting sometimes to really cook up a banger that's going to land with people. Like we're beyond the time now on social media where you can just dash out a random quote and like expect engagement. Like if you're not intentional with the piece of content, it's likely not going to perform as well as you would want it to perform. And so my answer is whatever you can do and whatever feels true for you is what you should be doing. Sometimes I don't post for a whole week because I'm just like, I don't really feel like posting right now. I'm in a different headspace. If I'm going to post, I need to really change my headspace, which is going to be unproductive to the project I'm working on now. And so, actually it doesn't make sense to post this week. So I'm not going to post. And then other times I might be posting fucking 3 times a day. It's actually easier to post 2 to 3 times a day for me than it is to post once or twice a week. Because if I post once or twice a week, I fall out of momentum. If I'm posting like once today, I'm like, oh shit, I'm like got momentum. Like there's still so much tension around Instagram for me. It's so distracting. You get carried in these rabbit holes. There's so much noise. It's like, yeah, so I find that when I'm in the field, it's just easier to kind of double down, triple down. But really, I would recommend 2 times a week, 3 times a week above daily or 2 times a day for probably most people because it is going to allow them to up the quality. And that's a lot more important than just dashing out videos for the sake of dashing out videos.
Yeah. Thanks, Thor. Actually, that segues into another curiosity of mine, which is with Instagram. You talked about being in rabbit holes. You've probably watched The Social Dilemma, or at least you're aware of how these apps are engineered to suck our attention. There's also a censorship part. I personally got my Instagram taken down when I interviewed Sasha Stone in the middle of the pandemic, and through that, I thought, okay, fuck it, I'm leaving Instagram. At the time, it was okay, Telegram or crypto-friendly social media. I came back because the crypto-friendly social media haven't done so well, like Odyssey instead of YouTube, and Telegram's still doing well, but anyway. Instagram has this problem for a light worker leader of the new earth where it sucks up attention and it can censor. So how do you navigate drawing people to such a platform?
That's yeah, it's tricky. I think the first thing is how do you not let yourself get drained? And that's sometimes very hard. I'll go to Instagram to post a story and then I'll see the newsfeed before I'm able to click on the story icon. And then I'm just like, oh shit. And then I'm sucked in. And so, yeah, it takes a lot of conscious awareness. Like you just got to be really fucking conscious with what you're doing because it's so easy to get sucked in if you're not fully fucking moving with the mission. Like I'm going to Instagram just to post this thing now and then I'm fucking out. It's like that's how I'm moving now. And I'll start overthinking my posts if I start consuming content. I don't ever consume content that day on a Monday, for example, if I'm going to post content on Monday. Never. It just does not work for me. It totally fucks me up because I start overthinking and overanalyzing, and oh, maybe this person said this now, and like this is happening in the field, so maybe I could have communicated it slightly different to pair to this, and blah blah blah. It's yeah. So yes, you can use Instagram to get content inspiration, but holy fucking shit, getting that inspiration comes at a fucking cost, and that is you losing and zapping out your life force. And so really, whenever I create, it's the first thing that I do in the morning, because it's when I'm the purest vessel for God to work through me, for myself to be able to listen to my intuition and let myself be navigated in that way. That's our greatest gift, is that wisdom, is that intuitive guidance, is that creative flow that you can only really tap into when you're in a clean, clear headspace, which I don't find to be the case later on in the day. Sometimes too, I have that later in the day if I've done a lot of momentum and gotten a lot of stuff done. That momentum is exciting. There's also more thoughts because I've had more conversations. So it's oftentimes easier to record in the evening, as long as you're not distracted. But if you're inspired because you've had an amazing day, that's a great time to record. So it's really finding what that flow looks like for you. And the second thing is censorship. How do you navigate censorship? Blur out swear words, blur out COVID, blur out vaccine, blur out even government. You could blur out a Trump. Like there's all of these words that I don't blur out most of these words myself. I do blur out my swear words, and I definitely did blur out COVID and vaccine. And microdosing, for example, or ayahuasca, like these are words that you might want to blur out too. Blur them out. That's probably the best thing that you can do. And yeah, heck, I mean, I post a lot of crazy shit, and actually, I don't find that by exposing government stuff, because everybody's doing it and like they can't stop it at this point. So like that's not actually what's getting blurred the most and censored the most. And also they can't really, like this is one thing that kind of just speaks to, I guess, the way the universe works as a whole, is they got to be able to like take you on something. Like if they can't take you on, like if they want to take you down but they can't find a true reason as to why you're breaking rules, they can't do it, because then they're going against the law of karma. And the ones that run this matrix, the elite, they're very aware of the law of karma. This is why they'll tell us what they're doing through movies, through dropping breadcrumbs before they do it, because they know how karma works. And so, for example, the only times that I've had content banned or taken down is by, it was really controversial and they didn't like it, but I misquoted Thomas Jefferson. So it's like, because I misquoted him, now they had something tangible they could take me on. And so they took me down on that. Obviously, the algorithm too will try to,
Shadow ban.
yeah, shadow ban you. Exactly. And it takes a lot for me to get my content popping. Like for me to get 100,000 views on a video, I need 10,000 likes on that video, almost 10,000 likes, which is pretty fucking insane, because like a lot of like these pretty influencers or whatnot, they'll have 1 million views on a video and it does not even have 10,000 likes. So the bar of entry for me to fucking blow up is really high, but it's also forced me to level up my content. But with that, when you're actually putting out bangers, like at a certain point, the algorithm can't even stop you. They will shadow ban. My page has been shadow banned for 2 years. But also because I'm cooking up bangers, they can't stop me because people just like it. And because it's getting so much engagement compared to the views, the algorithm is just programmed to show it to more people because it's just performing so well. And so that's your way out. Level up the shit that you're posting. Cook up bangers. That's your way out of the shadow ban.
Yeah, thank you. And do you see any different platform coming anytime soon that would be more aligned with awakened leaders?
Well, Rumble is pretty big. And I haven't done anything on Rumble yet, but I think those platforms like Rumble will continue to grow, but I also think Instagram will continue to be the place, to be honest. Because like, yo, my whole fucking almost my whole life since I dropped, my whole life since before I dropped out of high school is documented on Instagram. Like, it's a whole journey. And so, yeah, it's cemented itself. And so I think it's going to stay for probably a good while more.
So thanks, Thor. We're approaching towards the end. Maybe quickly, I have a curiosity on, I've watched your masterclass on personal branding, and would you recommend coaches and people when they build a personal brand, if they want to make money, do you recommend more that they use their knowledge and their service to work more as an agency and help other brands, for example, or that they monetize directly through their coaching? Because I know for you, for example, you explained in your masterclass that where you make your money is more the agency, and then the knowledge you teach in that masterclass, and then the community you're building around it, it's not really how you make money. And in one way, it's nice because then I'm thinking, oh, great, I have a great deal. He's making money with something else. But in another way, I'm feeling, oh, so if he's not making his money this way, it inspires me less also to do something similar if I want to make money through building community, through teaching and coaching people on this. So how do you feel?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I think really, well, what all it comes down to is just what your focus is and what you, because I've done a lot of that, the community building, and like we've had clients that are fucking doing $500,000 a month off of Instagram, off of like, selling products and building their community and whatnot. Like, to really get to those numbers too, like you're not, there's some karma that's been accumulated there. 100%, there absolutely is. Because the prices they charged, they didn't need to charge that much, but to scale, that's how the fucking industry works right now. But it's not about if you're doing coaching or building a community or doing an agency service. That's not what it's about. What it's about is the value that you're providing. If the value that you want to provide to somebody is best done through an agency service, then you should do agency services. If it's best done through one-on-one coaching, then that's what you should do. And also, what's in alignment with you, what feels true for you, what is most inspiring for you. For me, it's a little bit of both, but also the agency is a lot more like, it has a lot of sustainability to it. And also for me, I'm able to show up a lot more powerfully in the community when I also don't rely on the community for my paycheck. Like, there's an increased level of detachment that comes with it. I'm also able to teach it more effectively because I don't need anything from them. Same with the clients too. To be honest, it's the same there because we're at a certain point in our business, in our journeys. But at the end of the day, like, what you should focus on, and I tell people this too: before you sell a course, you should have done group coaching. Before you do group coaching, you should have done one-on-one coaching. You can't really make a course and sell it to the masses unless you've really coached with at least like 50 people one-on-one to understand people and what makes them trigger and what makes them get results before you can package it into something that's more generalized.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Thor. Oh man, there's so many other questions, so many things we could look at. And by the way, I'll put the link to your masterclass. That's like more than 2 hours, I think, if people want to dive into that. But I think for today, let's stop here, and we can always do another one if we wish. Just before we close, is there anything more you'd like to share with me and the listener?
I'll just say that I believe that we're all here to have fun. We're all here to play. That's the most important thing you can do. Enjoy life, have fun, maximize your ability to have fun. Personal branding, building your own brand is one of the greatest ways you can do that because so many doors open, so many more ways, expanded ways of expressing life and reality is possible through that. I'm talking with a guy in Bali through a fucking screen in my apartment in Norway. Like, that's kind of crazy. We'll meet in person one day. We'll fuck around, have fun, eat some amazing fruits, like whatever. Like, there's so much expansion available through you putting yourself out there. And I also believe it is your responsibility to do that, because the world needs stronger leaders. The world needs integral leaders that actually show up and give a fuck. And that, the more people do that, that's how we build new earth. And yeah, again, or like you said, if you guys want to check out the masterclass, it's a full on, it's like almost 3 hours, but the teaching part, there's Q&A at the end. I also talk about I have a brand new course on personal branding, which will be mentioned at the end there. But it's essentially about how do you build a brand, a personal brand in New Earth without sacrificing your integrity, without feeling salesy or feeling out of alignment with yourself. Because that's what makes most conscious leaders quit is, shit, this doesn't feel true anymore. So how do we bridge that gap? Yeah. And Alex, really, really appreciate the conversation. Yeah, big love. Thank you to everybody watched. And yeah, see you guys around.
Brother, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and all your shares. And thank you to everyone who listened.